Hello, welcome to Fuzzy Concepts again with Steve Rockhausen, myself, Adam McCarthy, and our special guest this week, Emmet O'Brien.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Long-time friend.
Yeah.
We were in school together, Emmet.
We were, yeah.
Sometimes I forget about that.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of these things where we knew each other vaguely then, and then we became much better friends in different contexts. Also, you lived close to
And
me.
I lived around the corner from you as well. It was very strange.
Yeah.
And I used to hang around with Cahill, who you know, and it was always just you were kind of on. We were kind of, if there was a Venn diagram, we were at the opposite sides, but then eventually we came in.
Yeah. No. But I always remember as well, there was like a friend of mine, I think you knew her as well, called Grace, that lived around the same area. And we realized one time that we should have met about 50 different times, but didn't meet till Freak Scene or something.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember like you being mentioned as like, you know, some sort of background character that you never see.
Yeah, I remember for a long time I was
or something like that.
John's younger brother, and I remember the day when I finally was free of that moniker. That was when I arrived, like young Neil in Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Steve, you met Emmet when we were all in college together, I think.
College, yeah.
So you were, you were the year behind me in college as well, Emmet, weren't you?
Yeah, in the radio broadcasting. You were kind of mentors because we used to use the studio. I think we were on a show together. I think we did something.
Did you come on to one of our? I think actually it might have been your first ever. Might have been your first ever go on the CSN FM.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that I screwed you, but I can't remember why or how.
Yes, I was about to tell the story. You gave me a bunch of news stories, and there was a lot of SARS, the SARS epidemic, which was full of like hard to pronounce names. But you also, a footballer, I don't know anything about this, but a footballer called Nicky Butt. Something happened with Nicky Butt, and I feel like you had written it to be sort of like things like they'd squeezed the butt out, and I definitely was noticing some innuendos as I was reading it. And then you were like, "That's just the copy we got." And I was like, It was a little too convenient. But yeah, so that was a trial by fire. That news report I had to do.
But you passed with flying colours.
Apparently, you taught me everything I knew to not laugh. Anyway,
our shows tend to do that, kind of not make people laugh. So
yeah. Except for Ryan Gosling.
Good.
Except for Ryan Gosling, our only fan.
Yeah. We hit dizzy heights though on iTunes with the last couple of episodes.
I thought 31.
Yeah.
31 in the Irish improv charts.
Yeah, out of probably 31.
But how many Irish improv podcasts are there? Yeah. Thousands. There must be thousands.
Why is it? I can imagine you tell that to someone, we're number 31 in improv thing, and they say, yes, and?
Yeah,
so that's what the reply will be. But yeah, no, well done. I'm actually glad that you've resurrected Fuzzy Concepts and that it's as hazy as ever.
I mean,
I think if we ever got actually kind of a rigid kind of format for it, we'd be screwed and we'd give up immediately.
Yeah, you know what it feels like to me? It feels like those times when they started shooting Red Dwarf on film instead of it live in a studio audience. The magic would be killed.
It would be gone, yeah. Massively.
Yeah. Well, thanks for especially because the Beatles. I don't know if you saw this, Adam, but last October for Lennon's birthday, I did something I've been planning to do for years. I listened to the entire Beatles canon in one sitting.
Oh, I do remember, yeah.
Yeah, because I read somewhere years ago on a forum that it would take 9 to 10 hours, like between 9 and 10 hours. It took me about 10 because I think I stopped to have food at one point. But it's actually actively listening to them. It kind of burnt me out a bit for a while. So I'm glad this was like... I
imagine it's very, very hard.
Yeah, like what happened was, especially, the early albums, which are quite similar, but I think what happened was around the time of the second side of the White Album, it all just suddenly, like I'd heard, like Jiminy Jillikers, I'd heard the word love so many times it lost all meaning, and yeah. And I always remember as well the people complain about Yellow Submarine being part of the official album canon, but that was actually a reprieve for me because a lot of it's just instrumental, George Martin instrumentals. And after hearing so many Beatles songs in a row, I was like, it's nice to just hear some music I can kind of ignore a little. So yeah.
It was definitely you're definitely kind of you're hell bent on doing it though. Fair play.
Yeah, I wanted to do it a few months earlier for Abbey Road, but it's just one of these things I always thought, like, what would it be like? And it's fun, but actively listening for like those 9 or 10 hours, did get a
The
bit.
rating, the reviews and that, did they get to a point where you thought, oh God, I've got to do one now on this?
Yeah, I was kind of doing capsule reviews as I went, and I definitely, there's a point where you, like, for example, as well, because as much as I love the Beatles, there's only so much you can say that, like 8 days a week is kind of similar to I Feel Fine, you know, like there's only so much you can differentiate between them. But it's funny, some people weighed in, and like I said about Sgt. Pepper's that I always thought Fixing a Hole was really underrated, and someone like commented being like, it's the worst song on the album, and I thought that was interesting, getting, like, people were very passionate about Fixing a Hole, or not, as the case may be. But,
and we look forward to you on Paul McCartney's birthday to listen to all his solo and Wings albums.
Yeah.
Alan Partridge, Wings, the band the Beatles could have been.
Beatles could have been.
I was actually planning maybe next year I might do all the films in a day or something.
Yeah.
So that's my next
That
plan.
mightn't be too bad. There's one theory Beatles theory that just came up to me on a comedy forum I read, and I just found it so hilarious, of just someone overthinking something. So basically it was to do with Alan Partridge, and you know when he's in the hotel and one of the guys asks him like what's his favorite Beatles record, and he says it has to be the best of the Beatles. Some guy, everyone was like accepting the joke as kind of, he just doesn't know what a Beatles album is, so he just go for the best of the Beatles. Someone else was trying to claim that he was so anal about the Beatles that he was actually Pete Best's album Best of the Beatles was his favorite Beatles.
which would be like a fun deep cut if it was true.
But there's no way they could go that in depth for just a 2-second joke.
No.
Although, you know, it'd be funny. I would imagine that Alan Partridge would sort of feel hard done by in a similar way to Pete Best, you know?
Yeah.
If they were to do something like that. But
You could see a kindred spirit in him, definitely, I think.
I saw an interview with Pete Best recently, and it must be really the thing you don't want to talk about all the time, but it's the only thing you have to talk about.
That's the only thing that anyone wants to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. And he needs the money probably, so he makes money off the interview, so he's probably just...
Well, I always think of Jerry Seinfeld said that, you know, Wayne Knight, you know, Newman, he's like, I've ruined that guy's life. Everywhere that guy goes, people just say, hello, Newman. And there's a point, there's a story where Wayne Knight gave out to someone who was having a particularly bad day, and someone said it. It's like that Victor Meldrew saying, no one has ever done this before. And then he just lost it with a fan, like, so it was just funny.
The albatross around the neck, definitely.
And I think, Adam, you were saying throughout the show tonight as well, since we can't legally play any music because we'll be sued, you're just going to announce the song that you could now hear, if you choose to.
If we were on a radio station, that So if I could find some knockoff dodgy versions that are just slightly in a different key, I would have found.
There must be some Muzak version of the Beatles actually, or something. You know, it's funny. I picked up like a terrible Beach Boys compilation just to have something in the car, you know, because I didn't want to bring in the albums recently. And all the Pet Sounds songs, like it has the rest of them, but all the Pet Sounds songs are just instrumental versions. Like it doesn't say it on the box or anything. Like some God only knows. I was waiting for the vocal, nothing. It's really weird.
Like a con job compilation.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah.
They have rights to all the Mike Love stuff, but we should move on to the news, I think.
Cool.
So just a quick bit of news. We'll start off in Canada, which is a place I think we've all been to.
Yeah.
A Canadian MP has apologised to colleagues after appearing completely naked during a virtual meeting of the House of Commons. William Amos, who has represented the Quebec district of Pontiac since 2015 for the Liberal Party, was seen behind a desk between the Quebec and Canadian flags with what appears to be a mobile phone preserving his modesty.
Wow.
A screenshot of Mr. Amos's disrobed display was obtained by news agency The Canadian Press. It was only originally visible to parliamentary members and staffers on an internal video conference feed. In an email statement apologising for his barefaced cheek, Mr. Amos described his state of undress as an unfortunate error. My video was accidentally turned on as I was changing into my work clothes after going for a jog. I sincerely apologise to my colleagues in the House of Commons for this unintentional distraction. Obviously, it was an honest mistake and it won't happen again. Raising a point of order, Claude de Bellefuel, an MP for the opposition Bloc Québécois party, suggested a parliamentary decorum requires a male parliament member to wear a jacket and tie and shirt, underwear and trousers at all times. Speaker Anthony Rota has reminded MPs to always be vigilant when they are near a camera and microphone. You can Google that and you can see the picture if you want.
Yeah, if you want to.
If you want to.
Why underwear and trousers? It'll just not be one or the other.
I don't know, is there something about going commando in the House of Commons? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm always surprised at these stories, because especially with this year, everyone's on Zoom, but there's so many of these faux pas or these accidents. It's like, you think, for example, right now, I don't feel so bad that I'm not wearing any pants, but
Yeah.
no, but my point being, like, cameras, people are using them all the time. You think it's the one thing you have to get right here, just be dressed, like.
Yeah, maybe he was trying to
Or
push,
at least, yeah,
trying to push some dodgy bill through or something, was trying to just distract people.
distracted from a
The thing is,
filibuster.
though, I have to admit,
but-
it gets people. Obviously, we think of Canada as being quite cold, but we all know that in the summer it gets pretty warm. So maybe there is some. He was just feeling a little too warm.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, generally, what's wrong with it?
Yeah,
It could be a bit distracting,
how about it?
especially if you shout out, "Do you want to see my elephant impression?" before you do it. But I don't see why not, especially
Or
if
if
it's
we're talking, I know it's Canada, but if you want to see my Republican Party impression.
Yeah.
It's a funny one though with these things. It's like that cat guy, the guy who was like, he filtered that he looked like a cat. And I always wondered, could he just turned off his screen? Like, I know it's like, speaking of, my cat showed up. As soon as I said that. But like, I was just wondering, could you just turned off the screen? But I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I think some people forget that in the panic.
Have you ever had moments where, not nudity or anything, but sort of caught unawares by a camera in that sort of context?
I was on a call during the week. I was doing a kind of a football thing for someone, asked me to come on for a little bit, and I had to leave midway through their thing. I told them beforehand, like, that I'd have to go, and I'd never done it. It was on the Discord kind of video thing. I'd never done before, and when it was time to leave, I thought I'd shut it down, and I could see my camera was still on, and I could still hear them. And I was like, I have no idea how to leave this video chat. I was stuck on it for about.
I think what I was doing was, someone recently asked me to like watch. They were doing a puppet show live from Dublin. This artist called Marie Denham, and actually Burke Quinn and stuff was there as well, because I think he was involved somehow. But I was just waiting to be let into the room.
Was he one of the puppets?
Yeah. But I was waiting to be let into the room, and I think I was just humming to myself without realizing. I think I was humming, weirdly enough, All the Way to Reno by REM, when it was like just 60 people or something. I think that's the closest I've come to that, where I was like singing to myself without realizing it. So.
Yeah, I think all of us have at some stage have left a mic open on the radio.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've ever said anything too controversial, because generally myself and Steve would save the controversial stuff for actually when we were on air.
Yeah. Not off air. Quite boring while the songs were playing. What we'd be talking.
Oh yeah, we most of the time I'd say we would just be looking at the computer and say nothing, and then come back into something libelous right away.
I do think though, have you that thing where it's like you accidentally you don't pull the mic fader down fully, so it's more like you're remixing a conversation into a track,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
of course there's the famous, maybe it was the first one of these accidents way before time, but I know you'll remember this, Emmet. It was 2TV on a Sunday morning with Dave Fanning, and he got caught with the mic open, ripping the piss out of Boyzone, I seem to remember.
Yeah, that was the end of him.
Yeah.
Ron Atkinson was the other famous one.
Oh yeah, that's one we probably shouldn't go into too much.
We won't go into detail about that. People can Google that themselves.
And wasn't there a Prince Charles one as well, where he didn't know a mic was on, and there was some press conference, and a journalist came in and he said to William or Harry, I don't know, oh, I can't stand this guy,
Oh yeah.
or something like that.
I think that's the guy
Um,
who's like the royal correspondent for the BBC.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who's like the most obsequious, and he's the most just like boot-licking journalist when he's talking with the royals, and they can't stand him.
Yeah. Well, no, I remember 2TV. There was a few. I remember that. Yeah, he was talking over Boyzone, but there was a few like hiccups when it came to 2TV. I always remember this time when Dave Fanning just was really hungry all day. Like he just kept complaining that he hadn't had his breakfast, and then they brought in like a bowl of fruit or something, and then Bianca Lykes was telling this like really long celebrity gossip story or something, and the camera cuts back to Dave Fanning, and he's just like devouring the fruit basket, and he doesn't realize he's on camera, and he's like, I wasn't listening. I always remember that just cracking me up as a kid, like he's devouring the fruit basket, like that was kind of part of the fun of it, though.
Exactly.
You know the famous. I saw it recently. It's on very bad quality on YouTube, and I won't go too much into detail for this, but Slash, when he was on CD UK, you remember this?
Yes.
Yeah.
He starts talking about all sorts of rock star decadence, and then you can see Cat Deely trying to like wrap it up, and then it cuts over to Ant and Jack, and they were like, "We're very sorry." And then when Slash was asked, he was like, he didn't realize it was live, and then he was like, "Oh, I just thought they could edit me out or something." And then people were like, "Slash, didn't you see it? It was like an audience of like 12-year-olds, like to your left," and he's like, "I don't know."
They have to learn sometimes.
What better way? And who better to learn from?
Exactly. We'll move on to the next story. Facebook has been criticised after taking down the official page for the French town of Bitch. Local broadcaster Radio Melody reported that the page was taken down, forcing a municipal communications officer to create a new one under another name. Miss Valerie Degoy said the new page was named after the town's postcode, Marie 57230, as reported by Political. Miss Degoy said, "I tried to reach out to Facebook in every possible way through different formats, but there's nothing I can do. We already had issues when I first created the page, but they just won't get back in touch." Another of the communist towns, Rohrbach Les Bitches, renamed its page Ville de Rohrbach out of caution. In a post explaining the change, the account holder said, "Far from us the idea of denying the name of our beautiful village, but Facebook seems to be hunting the term associated with Rohrbach. We'll let you imagine the reason," they added with a winking and laughing emoji. So there you go. Have you ever been to Bitch?
No, I don't think so. We know Zuckerberg watches and listens to this podcast, so maybe he can step in and help him out.
He should.
I'm assuming, though, there must be loads of towns like this, though, that have iffy names in different languages and stuff. And are you going to police them all? Like,
exactly. Well, there's like the Australian town of Fucking. Is it Fucking?
Yeah.
They've changed their name recently because they were just sick of the tourists.
Yeah. Wasn't there 2 English lads went on a tour of all the weird names in the UK?
I think so, yeah. There's so many bad. Fingering Hoe is one of them, I know.
Yeah, like Cock Lane or something is another one. And you see them on like Facebook, people posting stuff. I guess though, like it's funny because people would probably, I always feel like this will probably help tourism. People will probably want to go to Bitch, essentially.
I think people were stealing the signs for fucking.
Yeah.
And they were sick of it. And I just like to point out to any censors, I'm naming the name of the town, I'm not swearing.
Yeah.
Just like I mentioned a rooster previously.
Exactly.
Howard Stern style.
And of course, famously, there's a Swiss football team, which I know you know loads about, Emmet. The Swiss football team called Young Boys FC. And they play at the Wankdorf Stadium.
Oh. I'm glad to hear it.
So I know that you're a big fan of the
Yeah. What a stadium.
But that's like, have you ever noticed that thing where like when you watch news reports and stuff, how perfectly sometimes like doctors, like when with the first guy who cloned the sheep, Dolly, he was like Dr. Seed or something. There's always like these doctors that have like weirdly perfect names, whatever the news story is about, whatever they're involved in. And I feel like
definitely someone has to be kind of just saying, we'll just throw that name in there.
Yeah.
Well, you've heard it. Have you seen that YouTube clip? It's quite controversial now about the was it Fox News or something, were tricked, they were pranked that there was a plane that crashed and it was like,
Oh yeah.
and it like had Asian names and they were all fake and they nobody. And the thing is, like, when you read it out loud, you think one person would have caught it. They were like,
it's like,
these
holy
names sound
fuck,
literally.
we gone down or something like that.
Yeah, we too low. Like, and you think someone would have caught it, like.
Yeah. Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah, I remember the screenshots went around for a long time. So that's all the news I have. There wasn't too much of quality there, so I just thought they were the two best ones. I mean, you can't get much better than a naked Canadian parliamentarian and a town named Bitch, which was the original name for the Jam song, I've heard.
We got nudity and profanity. I mean, what else do the people want?
That's what we promise, and that's what we give to people.
All right, so we're going to move on then to what the episode is about, really, which is about conspiracy theories with the Beatles. And I know, Adam, yourself and Emmet know some of the bigger, well-known theories. Give a cough there, sorry, people. For anyone,
it's a great internet wormhole to go down.
It is, yeah. But I have some theories that fans have come up with that I don't know. Maybe you've heard of these ones, maybe you haven't. But we'll see. I'm going to start with.
Let's go for it.
You're going to go into. I assume you're going to go into the Paul is dead theory at some stage.
Yeah.
But this theory is not Paul is dead, but in fact Paul is the only original member who has not died and been replaced. So this theory comes from a University of Virginia student, Chris Fischel, from 1994. He said Ringo Starr was the first to die in 1963, then Harrison in 64, and finally John Lennon in 65.
Ringo always gets the short straw, like always.
He's not making wild accusations, he says, as he has proof. So here's some of his proof. In 1963, on the front cover of With the Beatles, Ringo's face is not in line with those of the other Beatles. Clearly a clue, he says, that Ringo on this album is different from the others. Obviously, he had died between the first two albums and been replaced.
Wow, that was very early for them to like ship in a new Ringo.
Yeah. Then on 1964, on the cover of A Hard Day's Night, George is the only Beatles with his back to the camera in any of the photos, and he's the only one with a cigarette, which he says indicates a coffin nail. These are signals that George had died. And in 1966, on Revolver, John number 2, after John had died, sings "I'm Only Sleeping." Sleep is, of course, a metaphor for death. In 1967, then,
but he's singing it. He's singing it.
He's singing it, yeah.
I do like
though is that his theory is almost right.
Yeah, but
because Paul McCartney is almost the last one alive.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's true. But he is saying it's John number 2 was singing it about the other.
Oh, John. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot about John number 2.
John number 2, the John they replaced the original John with, and then John number 2 in Strawberry Fields says "I buried Paul," which he says at first might suggest that Paul has joined the other 3 Beatles in dying. However, earlier John 2 sings "Nothing is real," which shows that his latter comment is not real. So it's a red herring to throw you off the trail.
Man, I'd have to have serious concerns with the Beatles security team.
Yeah, they all died.
I mean, one is careless, 2 is like 3 though.
And
I know those crowds, those Beatlemania crowds were nuts, like, but they didn't literally tear them apart.
Yeah,
I like the idea that this is proof, like out of context lyrics.
Yeah. Well, they get weirder. This one is that the Beatles are characters that have been played by many different actors over the years. I couldn't find out who came up with this theory first because a lot of people have been talking about it. They were never just 4 individual people known as John, Paul, George, and Ringo, who comprised the Beatles and rose to fame as the world's first supergroup, it says. But for all intents and purposes, as far as we can tell, no such one group ever existed. Their evidence is based on the Beatles appearing to be shorter or taller as the years went on. Some members who were left-handed suddenly being right-handed, and not to mention what they say is the most obvious reason of all, Paul has had very different eyebrows over the years.
All in the eyebrows.
That's it. They're hinging it all on Paul's eyebrows over the years.
Raised eyebrow.
But who's changing hands from left to right? I have
no idea.
There There is something I've noticed in my research. It's like on the cover of Abbey Road, which we'll get to later, as apparently the Rosetta Stone of Paul is dead. But Paul is holding a cigarette in his right hand, and people are like, he's left-handed. That's one of those key clues there that they highlight.
Yeah.
But I think it's a case of like Billy Corgan is left-handed when he writes, and he plays guitar with his right hand. Like these things are all interchangeable, you know. Yeah. But I did fall down a rabbit hole of seeing side-by-side pictures of the Beatles as they were changing over the years, and people like that nose isn't right and stuff. So I've definitely seen something along these lines.
Yeah. The third one, I've got 5 of these, is that the Illuminati created the Beatles to control the youth and reshape their personalities with soft drugs. This one comes from Dr. John Coleman, who's conspiracy theory royalty, really. He loves the Illuminati ones. He claims the Committee of 300 and the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations engineered the American media to declare them the top of rock and roll mountain before they had climbed it. The editor's note at the top of the long article warns people are sentimental about the Beatles will find it hard to believe that they were pumped up and used by the Illuminati to introduce soft drugs among middle-class American youth. Dr. Coleman has long been an advocate for the existence of the Committee of 300, who allegedly founded by members of the British aristocracy in the 18th century, is a group often brought up by him and other conspiracy theorists, and has since controlled decisions in all aspects of civilization, from pop culture to politics. The Tavistock Institute is a publicly known British charity founded in 1947, but conspiracy theorists believe the Institute's real purpose is similarly to engineer the world's culture. So he doesn't give a lot of...
What was their end game with the Beatles project to get people all turned on and
I suppose
drugs, like
get people into drugs, get the middle classes into soft drugs. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Make them easier to control or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Why make marijuana legal then?
Yeah.
If they're controlling everything.
Yeah. No, they figured we could make it legal, or we could just use a fake band to do it for us.
Exactly. And have to get a team of writers.
Yeah. To
change style over time.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I've always loved about these things, where it's like, if Paul was replaced or if the 3 other members were replaced, it's handy that they replaced the people who were just as good songwriters as the originals. Like, you know, like it's a good thing that Paul McCartney replacement was just as talented.
Yeah. But that's it. The Illuminati leave no stone unturned when it comes to these things. Then there's this one guy who claims the Beatles conspired to kill their original drummer, Pete Best. It comes from a guy called L. Gunblade, which I don't think is his real name. And despite claims of it to be our producer, Phil, we can confirm it's not him. I asked him today, was it him?
I don't know.
And it's not. Anyway, the story goes, a customer at the Beatles hangout, the Grapes in Liverpool, overhears a conversation after the band's Cavern Club appearance that night. When drummer Pete Best leaves the room to urinate in the alley, John Lennon, George Harrison and Paul McCartney discuss the possibility of getting Pete out of the band. John dislikes his haircut. Paul hates how he's getting all the girls, while George states that he's glad they want to get rid of someone in the band other than himself. The wheel is set in motion, and apparently from an unpublished George Harrison memoir, the plan was to rig his drum kit to explode. And I was saying here, maybe the writers of Spinal Tap had read this unpublished memoir, and they only know the truth.
If you were trying to kill someone off and not put yourself in danger, why would you rig up a drum kit on the stage of the Cavern Club where it's tiny?
I also like the idea that it's like if he drums a certain amount that goes over BPM, a certain amount of number of BPM, it'll blow up.
Yeah.
That's why they sped up "She Loves You" or whatever. Like, yeah, wow. Like, there is that thing. Pete Best has always said in a self-aggrandizing way that it was the girls was a big part of. He was too popular, and apparently John Lennon in particular had it out for him straight away when he realized he was the most popular member of the band.
Oh, there you go.
You have to say though, like if the drummer is the most popular, then your band is in trouble, really.
Yeah,
that's true.
There you go. The last one I have is a strange one because the guy who came up with it, I'll go into it. Was actually,
this one is strange, Emmet.
This one is strange. The others are, strange, but this one is different in that the guy who came up with it, you'll see here now in a second. The Beatles have been purposely hiding songs apparently that they'll release if they ever need money. It says, have you ever heard the songs Colliding Circles, Left is Right and Right is Wrong, Deck Chair and Pink Litmus Paper Shirt? These are the songs that have apparently been hidden away in the Apple Records vault. A British teenager named Martin Lewis was the source of this theory in 1971 when he included extra track names on a Beatles bootleg he sent to a magazine. Since then, he has confessed that the whole thing was a hoax. But Beatles fans haven't taken his word, claiming he's lying. And in an interview with USA Today, Lewis explained, to my shock and horror, many Beatles fans refused to believe me. People told me your confession is a hoax. I know someone who's got those songs. So he said he's letting the cat out of the bag again. There are no songs. But, can we trust him to be lying or to tell the truth about lying, rather?
The Illuminati got him.
So he's the guy that came up with the conspiracy theory, admitted it's a hoax, but people don't believe him that it's a hoax.
Don't believe him.
And also, I bet the songs are they were mostly written by Pete Best, so the Beatles are trying to hide them away so that he wouldn't get the royalties.
He legally couldn't release them on the Best of the Beatles.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
it all ties together.
Pink Litmus
It does bring you
shirt.
back to fond memories of pre-internet times when you'd be looking at various CDs and things, and you'd see various B-sides, and especially if you're going to a gig in Dublin and you go to Rainbow Records and the keys there in Dublin, and you'd see all the bootleg live stuff or B-sides, and you'd all these mythical songs that you'd heard about from reading magazines.
Yeah, I remember I used to always check the REM section, and I don't know why, because it was always like I had them all. And then as I was checking in Buys and Scribes one day, there was a Dead Letter Office that had like a slightly different cover, and I was like, what's this? And then when I picked it up, there was 4 extra songs, live versions of songs, and one was All the Right Friends, which is a song they hadn't released. They eventually released it on Vanilla Sky soundtrack, but I was like, oh my god, am I going to buy this for the 4 extra songs? And I did, because that's the only way you can get them.
Well, you had to hear it, like.
Yeah, I love things like that. Like I once tracked down demos for the Smashing Pumpkins once from eBay back in the nascent days of that, and I got it. I was so excited, and I listened to it once because there's a reason they were demos and not finished.
Exactly. Well, I have memories of being in Montreal and spending a lot of time going around to various record shops, picking up the singles, Smashing Pumpkins singles. Because that was, apart from getting the big box set in the Airplane Flies High, that was the only way to kind of get the B-sides. So I remember going shop to shop and eventually find these singles. And I was quite obsessive when I was younger about trying to get everything that a band had released. So I definitely tried to do it with Blur.
Yeah.
I was the same, like complete completist.
Yeah.
Like,
good job you're not like that now, because they don't have Take Advantage these days.
Oh, with about 15 different versions of the record.
Yeah, and in the States as well, they release different shops have different bonus. You get like a Best Buy version, all this stuff. It's nuts, like.
Nuts. But those were the theories. And of course, one of those songs that he claims that is the hoax, but others say isn't, is Left is Right, and then brackets, Right is Wrong. So, that could be a song with clues all over the place. The Dead Beatles.
That's left wing, right wing propaganda. Is what that is. Actually, I wanted to ask you, like, what cured you of your completist thing? I think it might have been that Smashing Pumpkins thing for me, where I just went, oh, I don't think I need everything now.
No, I think what didn't help either was that I was DJing a lot at the time as well, so I would be picking up CDs all the time, just for library stuff, really, just for when I was DJing in various pubs. And yeah, I'd have my set favorite bands, and I'd pick up whatever I could of theirs. Just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like I just had that in me. And what cured it, I would say moving house.
Yeah.
And because I really did, I had about 1,200 to 1,500 CDs, I think, towards the end.
Waiting for Rest to release a new album.
Yeah, that's why I'm waiting. I'm a completist for Rest, and I'm going to wait for that. But yeah, and I had to move around 2 or 3 times very quickly. Yeah. This was after I'd lived in Canada and came back. And I vaguely remember a lot of my CDs were in Paula's house. And she kept them for me for a long time. But I had no space to put them where I was. And eventually I think she messaged me and she said, look, I'm leaving the house here and what do you want to do with the CDs? And there was no way I could take them, so I just said I had to kind of say, yeah, fine, do what you want with them. So I think a couple of housemates went through, took what they wanted, and then they gave the rest off to charity, which led to me finding a couple of signed Brooklyn Social Scene records.
I was there when you found them in the charity
which I bought back for just for myself. And I do have them somewhere, but I don't have them on display. They're just.
Was one of them signed or something? I remember you.
Yeah, there's a couple of them were signed at gigs and stuff.
I was with you when we made that discovery.
I said, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So that was it, and that did cure me. I think I was just after that. Then I realized I didn't need them, and I suppose like the inventions of iPods and eventually Spotify and all these things
it's nice
helped.
to have physical. It's nice to have physical media.
I do miss the sensation of getting something, bringing it home, opening it up, looking at the inlay card. I just love one of my favorite things about buying albums was the album art. I just absolutely loved album art.
I still love liner notes as well. Just like
exactly.
Like even just reading personnel, like who you discover some bizarre people in the background, like.
Yeah. And so I do miss that somewhat, but it's just space really and constant moving. I think if I was still in a house, I'd probably still have them, but I haven't missed them, which is probably the main thing.
Yeah, actually, I have like a home office here, and it's just now a storage thing for books and CDs, pretty much like, you know.
And what about when you were making your own CDs then, your own mix CDs? Did you do the inlay cards yourself? Your own notes?
I did. I've done that a few times. Mainly, I would do it. Well, my uncle, my uncle Stephen, who's kind of around the same age as me, he had a sideline in the 90s of just making fake versions of. I should really say this. He didn't sell them. He kept them for record purposes.
Yeah, he gave them away, and other people chose to give him birthday presents of cash.
Exactly.
But
he used to make like his own. He used to make his own special kind of. I remember there was the football sticker books that you could get.
Yeah.
Like the Panini, and one of them was like this very flashy silver kind of card paper, and he basically cut that out and made that the cover of like some Oasis compilation that he made. And he'd go into Melody Maker or NME, cut out the logos, and like glue them on, so it looked semi kind of serious. You know what I mean? But he definitely did not sell them to our friends. Definitely,
he just gave them away presents.
Absolutely not. And the odd time I do. And the odd time I do, our mutual friend Kate Emmet, I make her mixes from time to time, and I generally will make the effort with her to get little bits of information because she likes to find out about the band. So I put a little bit of information and find some dodgy picture off the internet to put on the front of the CD or something like that.
I remember years ago, a friend of mine, Alita, gave me a mix CD, and she didn't give me any information. She wanted me to figure out, like, do homework, right? But two of the tracks were instrumentals, and I was just like what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, to this day, I still don't know who that is. Like,
song with guitar noises.
But it's really funny as well. Years ago, my friend Michael Deneen made me. He burned the first copy, the first Apples in Stereo album he gave to me. And for some reason, I don't know, I think it might be just a glitch or something, but the song Butterfly by Weezer, the last song off Pinkerton, was just put in halfway through the album. And I was like, I knew it as I heard it. I was like, but to this day, I associate that song with a completely different album. So that's the beauty of mixed CDs there. Like,
it often reminds me of the old adverts for the compilation CDs you could get, the best drive time album. And all this. And I remember you'd see them so much that the songs, they would bleed into each other, that you'd actually become used to it. And if you listen to the song by itself, it would sound totally weird.
It's like
my name is Luca. I live on somehow I'll find my way home.
Yeah, the same thing with me with Umbrella to Hi Ho Silver Lining. Like, I think that's the chorus of that song. Like, but it's funny as well. I used to always, whenever I used to make mixtapes in particular, if I had like a sliver that I wasn't sure how much was left, I'd always put the same song that I knew was pretty short on it. So I put like Allison by the Pixies or Anyone Can Play Guitar by Radiohead. And I got so used to like knowing the anyone can play guitar. You know the kind of weird static that starts that song. I was once in a nightclub like John O'Leary, and I heard it, and I was just like, "It's anyone can play guitar." And it was before it started because I just heard that brief like
constantly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's great though. I do miss the world of mixed CDs though. It's kind of those kinds of compilations were nice.
It's very easy to make playlists now and just share them with people, but there's less love goes into it, I guess, or I don't know.
Yeah, you just type in the name of the song that's there.
Yeah. Whereas before you'd be like, and you know, like the old time with the tapes, you'd be like practicing, you know, make sure your handwriting is perfect. And if you spelled Deftones wrong, you'd be like, ah, shit.
Yeah, I remember like a mutual friend of ours, Adam as well, Aoife Barry, gave me an Elliott Smith compilation cassette tape. I think I still have. I think it was just all a bunch of different things from like a bunch of different albums, like Figure Eight and Either Or, combined. But I still remember, I still have that Elliott Smith compilation. Which is great.
Yeah, you would keep onto them. I had a lot of them that I kept onto for a long time as well. Like, you know, just. And yeah, they do become like, you know, sometimes because you might have got into the bands otherwise, so you'd start listening to them, but you'd still keep the mix tape because it's a personal thing, I think. How did we get onto this from the Beatles? I'm not sure.
Oh yeah,
I was about to segue back to the Beatles, right? With what's interesting about the Beatles as well is that, you know, the whole thing where singles weren't on LPs at the same time as well. So many Beatles compilations do not give you a flavor of the album stuff at all. You just know the singles. You don't get a real hint of it. But well, the most famous Beatles conspiracy theory, I guess, is the very like it's known to the mainstream as the Paul is dead phenomenon theory. And basically, the origin of this was in 1966 during a particularly contentious recording session. Paul McCartney was supposed to have stormed out, angrily drove his car, got involved in an accident, and got decapitated. Very lurid stuff, totally. But the weird thing is that Paul McCartney did storm out of sessions during Revolver. The song, it's well documented that during the song She Said, he got into a big argument about his bass. So they replaced, so someone else is playing bass on that. McCartney's not on that track. So you could sort of like a little bit sort of like find some sort of reality into it that he did storm out and he was angry. But anyway, this led to him dying. Different theories about what is that the MI5 got involved because they were upset. They were worried that the people would be so upset by the audience would be distraught that they were like, we need to find someone to replace them. Then another man called Frank Labor said that it was an orphan that looked freakishly like McCartney named William Campbell Shears, or Billy Shears as he was known.
Billy Shears.
Yeah. And they put him in to replace McCartney. As I said though, it's handy that, you know, he was as good a singer, good as bass player, good a songwriter as McCartney. What did McCartney's family think of this? You know, what did Jane Asher think of this? All these questions. But,
and how convenient this guy was an orphan.
Yeah.
And nobody else came across the crash except for MI5
in the middle of London.
So yeah, it's like that thing, you know, in Father Ted, like everyone involved with that mysteriously died in the same accident. So there's a number of like reasons for why this theory kind of took hold. A lot of people say that was like Vietnam and distrust of the government in general and looking for conspiracy theories in youth culture. But all the kind of those backmasking secret messages. So for example, you mentioned earlier, Steve, I buried Paul at the end of Strawberry Fields. Now the thing is, they said that that Lennon has claimed that he's saying the words cranberry sauce, but it's been flipped backwards, right?
Yeah.
But when you listen to it, and I listened to Strawberry Fields before we started, it really does. It does sound like I buried Paul, regardless of the intent. It sounds very similar to it. And then Lennon really loved messing with people. Like he just, I said that for the song "You've Got to Hide Your Love Away," he accidentally said 2 feet small. They said, "Oh, will we do that again?" And he said, "No, the pseudo intellectuals will love it." Then he wrote that song "Glass Onion" that had all these like self-mythologizing stuff. The walrus was Paul and stuff. So then it was all the pictures. Now you said earlier that in Hard Day's Night, Harrison has his back but like McCartney, it's really strange. McCartney is the person who has the most weird things on Beatles covers. Like there's one where they're all holding roses, some compilation in an American release. He's holding a black rose, so people took that. He has his back turned on the famous Sgt. Pepper's picture. barefoot in the Abbey Road picture. So it is odd how McCartney was always different to the rest of them.
Well, he was the new guy in the band. He was the new guy. After they
they were hazing the new guy. You can't wear shoes on this hot day.
But wasn't it that the Abbey Road cover, it was the way they were dressed as well, I think, was Lennon was at the front in a big white suit.
The clergyman. Preacher. And then Ringo's the Undertaker, because he's wearing all black.
Oh, yeah, because he's wearing a kind of a black kind of suit.
Yeah.
And then Paul
is barefoot. Yeah.
And then George Harrison's wearing denim, which they say is a grave digger's outfit.
The grave digger, yeah. Again, though, was that just what they were wearing randomly at the time? Like, you know that the original thing for Abbey Road was it was supposed to be called Everest, and they were meant to take a photograph at Everest, and then the band were so like annoyed with each other that they were like, how far would you be willing to go outside of like Everest? And they were like, Abbey Road is as far as we're willing to go. That's why that album is called that.
Outside the door of Abbey Road.
Yeah. So like, I do love the idea though that you can find, there's a great Ringo Starr quote when all this was reaching fever pitch. He said, "There's no way we can prove he's still alive." It's a wonderful quote. Other things on the Abbey Road cover though was the famous Volkswagen Beetle license plate says 28 IF or 28 if, and conspiracy theorists say that he would have been 28 at the time, but that's actually not true. If you do your maths, he would have been 27.
So
28 IF. And then there's also a police car sort of ambulance thing in the back, but that was literally one of the guys who actually had to like cordon off the street so the Beatles could take the picture. He just left his vehicle in the background. Like there's no
there's no big overarching.
That's what they want you to think.
That's exactly. Like here's the thing, like I always wondered about like, is it a case that like McCartney's actually my favorite Beatle, but I guess he lacks the edge of the others in some ways. So is this just a thing that took hold because of him to almost give Macca some sort of mystique, because he's the least mysterious of them or whatever. Like Lennon is the angry poet.
True.
Harrison is the like Ringo Starr is like the kind of buffoonish one. George Harrison's the spiritual one. What does Macca have? You know?
Yeah. And there is, of course, that big thing of the Paul is Dead thing is like, how could the guy who wrote Yesterday also write the Frog Chorus?
Yeah, and all the solo stuff.
What was the awful Irish kind of sympathy song that he did?
Ireland for the Irish.
Yeah.
I actually bought McCartney 3 for Christmas, and parts of it are pretty good, but there's a song called Lavatory Lil as well, which is not.
He always has a song called something like that.
Yeah.
And you're always like, oh God.
But to be fair, this fake guy has been playing music for a long time. He's bound to be good by now.
There's a guy, Frank Labor, who he wrote one of the most famous articles about the Paul is Dead phenomenon, and he was invited onto a television show, and he admitted as they were making the TV show, he was like, I just wrote it as a piece of satire, and then they said to him, we have an hour to fill, so you better just go along with it.
Well, there was a massive kind of like cottage industry of like Beatles fanzines and kind of unofficial bootleg magazines and stuff, and that I think a lot of it came from that as well, that they just were looking for stuff to fill the magazines, and so they'd have Paul is Dead exclusive kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's just funny to me because like I wonder, has someone charted like, was there a change in style between, because obviously like a lot of the reasons why people took hold of this as well was it happened during the making of Revolver, which was when the band stopped touring as well. They became a studio bound thing. And then also Sgt. Pepper's, then they were a completely different band headed by a guy called Billy Shears. So like and apparently the Beatles, the theory about why the Beatles were leaving clues were they felt so guilty about deceiving their fans, and this was the only way they could do it without MI5 getting wind of it. So leaving their clues.
But as one of my theories earlier says, what about Paul's eyebrows? Did they change over the years?
He lost a fight with the Shears. That's what's going on.
That's it.
I love I love things like this because isn't there like a few years ago there was a similar Avril Lavigne lookalike?
Oh, they were saying that, yeah.
She's been replaced, yeah.
Yeah, by a lady called Vanessa something, and she's asked about it quite frequently. But it was based on like pictures of her, and then.
But again,
it's
like the Ringo Starr thing, like you said, you can't prove. Like they didn't die. There's no way of really proving it other than saying I'm not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose the only thing I could say to that in favor of that theory is like, would Avril Lavigne really marry the guy from Nickelback?
Yeah, that's true. Released that terrible Hello Kitty song, like the nadir of her.
That's right. Yeah. Oh my God.
And then there's something else as well. There's another. Of course, yeah, the Melania Trump thing. There's a whole.
Yeah.
She has a body
the whole other thing with that.
That was the other thing as well.
I think you literally you could speak about like these conspiracy theories for hours and hours and hours. Just constant. And there's always something new coming out. And it's always about people leaving clues for some reason.
Yeah, I also feel as well that anything you want to help with the narrative, you'll find it. Like McCartney having a black rose in a photograph was probably just a random decision they made on the day. And now it's cosmically significant. Like,
there we go.
But the combination of like people said as well that Lennon kept keeping it going, like he kept facilitating the like with clues like Glass Onion and stuff. But I love the idea that the man who replaced McCartney could also end the Beatles. Like McCartney was the one who broke up the Beatles.
Yeah.
So they gave that Billy Shears a lot of power there.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe it was also, like, we're breaking up now, and if we don't, I'm going to out the truth. End your careers.
I love the idea that he held a gun to their head like that,
I do like the idea of a Shears 1, 2, and 3 album, though.
Yeah, I just like what I think is so great. I do love the idea that there's bands that you can sort of like attribute so much lore to, like their body of work is so. There's another thing as well, that Magical Mystery Tour, he's wearing a different thing to the rest of them as well, on the cover of that, and every single thing has been. At the back of Abbey Road, actually, the back picture as well on the sleeve is very important as well, because there's a shadow over it says Beatles Abbey Road.
Oh yeah.
It's done like a street sign, and there's a kind of an odd shadow, and people are like, if you squint or if you really wanted to, you can see the Grim Reaper in it.
That's a bit much.
It's a mysterious shadow.
Yeah. I do like those. They do play up to it. I know. I was only recently watching. For some reason, I just got George Harrison recommended on my YouTube, so I was watching the video for When We Was Fab, that kind of fan service Beatles song that he made, and Ringo's in it. And he wanted to get Paul McCartney in it as well. And Paul McCartney wasn't available. So Paul suggested just get a guy wearing a walrus outfit. And so basically they got the outfit from I Am the Walrus, where with the walrus. And it's just basically, Paul McCartney said, just tell him it's me.
I do love that idea though. It's like, did you see that film, A Ghost Story, from a few years back?
No, I don't think I have.
Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara. It's about like a guy who dies, but then he just is in the rest of the film as under a sheet. It's a very minimalist indie film. But apparently Kesha is in it. There's another ghost that they meet, but it's just people under sheets. So it could literally be anyone.
It could be anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were like, Kesha's like, that is me. So I just thought that's kind of funny. Like,
there we go.
I do think like one of the things I love about the Beatles, as I was saying earlier, was like just how much lore you can attribute to them. But sometimes it goes way too far. Like, I have a book, Revolution the Head. It's great, by Ian MacDonald, but it basically tells you the exact time John Lennon and Yoko Ono consummated their affair. And I remember like closing the book being like, that's enough Beatles for today. But I've always reminded of this terrible made-for-TV movie called The Linda McCartney Story, where it charts her relationship with Paul. I didn't notice, but she was like a photographer, a musician, like a musician photographer before that, like before meeting him. That's how they met. And she had all these sorts of affairs, and there's with musicians throughout the years. And there's a bit where you're getting into like an argument, her and Paul, and he's like, I bet you wish I was more like Jim Morrison. It's like, screw Jim Morrison. And she's like, I already did. It's really bad. And then they showed the recording of Let It Be with the tensions, and obviously it's like a made-for-TV movie, and I feel like it's all simplified. So like at one point, John Lennon sort of like walks up to McCartney and he's like, "Obla di, obla da, I think your song is rubbish." And I was like, I'm sure that's not what happened. Like I'm sure Lennon was a bit more imaginative. And then my favorite bit though is that they're listening to and everyone's there in the studio, including Yoko. And they're all just sitting there listening to playback. And then Yoko Ono stands up, and like the acting's pretty bad. She just goes, "I think John's song is better than Paul's." And I was like, she did not.
She might have.
But I always think of it as like the most cartoony portrayal of the relationships of the Beatles. So I always think about it whenever I'm thinking about the Beatles. I love it. So I think your songs are rubbish.
That's just, yeah. Whoever wrote that should be ashamed of themselves. It's one of the worst lines in cinematic history, I would.
Well, actually, we are getting. Isn't Peter Jackson doing a big Beatles film?
Oh, yeah,
He's gotten all the archives of Let It Be.
So maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, maybe Yoko Ono was just as obvious and as unsubtle as that. You know?
Yeah.
It's not like Yoko Ono to make a scene.
I don't think so. No.
So, yeah. But you know what? I hope the Paul is dead thing ironically never dies, because it's such a weird, brilliant conspiracy.
It is, yeah, it is. As long as, like, you know, when Paul eventually does go, that people don't start like trying to break into the funeral saying it's not him.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, actually, they'll probably just replace him again.
Or someone should leave flowers saying, "Rest in peace, Billy Shears."
Yeah.
I like the idea that they just, they just keep Paul McCartney will never die. There'll just be another Paul McCartney.
Yeah. Brilliant. Great.
So there we go.
There we go. I will fire into the horoscopes before we wrap up the show. Not too bad. These ones.
We're all right, Harry.
They're kind of all right, I suppose. Depends what star sign you are, I suppose, as with every week. So we'll start with Aries. With the lifting of restrictions on the way, you will once again get to travel, mostly in the boot of the car guy you owe money to, though.
That's me. I'm Aries. Yeah.
Oh, no. Taurus, after another failed coup attempt, maybe it's time to accept maybe people just don't like you. Gemini, avoid making big financial decisions this week, as the extreme pain you're in from the accident will likely affect your judgment. Good solid advice there. Cancer, your world is turned upside down this week when you learn the guy you've been getting or paying for karate lessons rather isn't the real Bruce Lee.
Oh,
there was a lot in that sentence. There was a lot of narrative packed into that there.
Leo, being smart, intelligent, fun to be around, and unbelievably handsome isn't all it's cracked up to be. So at least you have that going for you. Virgo, you have an upturn in fortune next week, but given the days that come before it, it would be near impossible to get worse. Libra, you attempt to break a new stunt record next week. While the stars can't reveal if you make it or not, they do agree with the medics that it was fairly quick and painless and you likely didn't suffer.
Oh, Jesus.
So, Scorpio, we don't know if it's gods interfering in your life, the movement of the stars and alignment of the planets, or if people just always find you getting hit in the nuts funny no matter what the cause.
Man Getting Hit by Groin is an Oscar-winning film.
Sagittarius, if you are the type of person who believes in coincidences, then you have nothing to worry about when medical professionals name a new flesh-eating virus after you this week. Capricorn, just your luck. It's just your luck this week when of all the people the boss could fire, it's the one person who will hold a homicidal grudge against everyone who works for the company. No luck.
I work from home.
They don't have your address. Aquarius, nothing really changes for you this week unless you're one of those overly sensitive types who thinks their house burning down is a big deal. Pisces, you come to a crossroads in your life, but don't dwell on which path to take for too long. Ultimately, they both lead to you falling off that bus. So there you go.
There we go. So wonderful horoscopes as always.
Glad
Thank you,
that's
Steve.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a new
Coming out of
special
the
guest by the
pandemic
looks of
with
it.
some nice.
Yeah.
We have a brand
We
new
do.
special guest.
Willow.
Yeah.
Oh, Willow.
A Wings fan though, so
No,
she's
she's
kind of
gonna-
been avoiding most of it.
Yeah.
She's Stuart Sutcliffe was her favorite people.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, the sad times. So thank you, Emmet, for
Yeah,
joining
Thanks
us.
for having me on. Had a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Thank you.
And it's been nice. It's been nice seeing you, I guess.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
move
All the way from Moscow, as you can tell.
It's been a while.
Adam's out in Moscow at the
all the way
moment.
from Moscow. Yeah.
Hanging out with Snow.
I'm getting my special vaccine.
Thanks for
Thank you.
thanks
Get my
for
Snowden
braving the weather for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for braving communication. I mean, now they can track you, but
Yeah.
and stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't mind the Russians tracking me.
No.
That's the
And
worst that can happen.
you're looking forward to having 5G inside you or whatever.
Oh, I can't wait. I'll be buying a Microsoft 365 straight away tomorrow to get my vaccine.
Yeah, I'd say you'll upgrade to everything, Microsoft, and buy an Xbox and everything.
I'll upgrade to, I'll be a Microsoft guru. Oh, yeah, I already have an Xbox.
Yeah,
And I use Microsoft Teams at work. Oh, my God.
You've already been compromised. You're an asset.
Myself and Adam will both be vaccinated before the next show, so rather than Zoom, we'll probably be Microsoft Teams. For the next show.
Microsoft Teams, yeah. And we'll start off saying how wonderful Bill Gates is.
Probably be a Bill Gates special.
I think you're just going to be in the same location, but you're going to build like a partition to make it look like you're in different frames.
That's it. So
cool. Thanks a million for having me on.
That's exactly
really
what we're going to
appreciate
do. Yeah. So thanks, everyone. And we'll talk to you soon enough. We'll be back in a few weeks again with another guest, I guess. We'll try and think of some.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
To drag on.
What we'll talk about, who knows?
Cool.
Yeah, we'll figure something
The joys of it. So let's get us to number 30 in the Irish Improv charts.
That's
everyone.
it. Come on,
Come
everybody.
on. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.